Good evening, everyone, and welcome once again to our weekly webcast. It's called The Leader's Edge. We are here tonight with another amazing leader. He comes tonight with a great topic called The Engaging Leader. By the way, guys, this is already our eighth episodes. Woo! Congratulations to us, and thank you for everyone who's keep on watching our episodes. So, if for those who are first timer here in the Leader's Edge, you can catch up in our previous episodes of the Leader's Edge. You may watch it here in the Speakers Bureau Academy, and also you can watch it via the Leaders Edge YouTube channel. Yes, we have YouTube channel na po. Okay? So we at the Speakers Bureau, together with our guest speaker, really want to help you to become an engaging leader. So we are live. So we live in a highly disruptive environment. This simply means we can expect one disruption after another, whether it is the internet or coronavirus. So what is important in organizations constantly prepare themselves to adapt, to survive, and thrive when faced with these challenges. During this crisis, employee engagements becomes even more critical. We need everyone to be highly committed to doing their part in riding these big waves of change. To achieve this, organizations must pay serious attention to develop all their leaders to be more engaging. So tonight, we bring you and we present to you the practical ideas to become more engaging leaders. Let me give you a quick background about our guest speaker for tonight. He is a Chief Engaging Officer of Inspiring Partners Incorporated. This is an exclusive promoter of investors in People brand in the Philippines. Wow, interesting. So 2019, he is the PMAP. PMAP stands for People Management Association of the Philippines. He is also a passion transforming. His passion is transforming organizations to become purpose-driven and high-performing. Ladies and gentlemen, let us all welcome Mr. Gerry Plana. Mr. Gerry, kumusta po kayo?
Good evening, Rock. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much, sir, for being our guest speaker for tonight. May I ask, sir, what keeps you busy nowadays?
Well, even during pandemic, surprisingly, these are times that really keep you busy in a different way because the lockdown has really forced you to really do a lot of thinking and reflection. So since we're in the helping business, so we do a lot of that these days, during the pandemic, reflection, developing work, developing content so that we can serve our clients better.
Wow, sir. Interesting. So I've read about your background, investors in people. This is something new to me. For me, no, I don't understand this kind of investors in people. So what is this investors in people, Sir Jerry?
Okay, very, very briefly, investors in people, sometimes some people call it the ISO for HR. But actually, this is an international standard that helps organizations become better. I think the best way to describe this is to have an analogy of people who want to climb the top of the mountain, like you're a climber. If you want to be a climber, you need some guideposts, some guidelines to be able to reach the top of the mountain. So this is how we view investors in people standard. This is like the guideposts or the guidelines for leaders so that they can slowly and gradually uh, make their organizations high performing. So that in a nutshell is what investors in people are about. So the top of the mountain for leadership is when they have a fully highly engaged workforce that works highly committed to serve the organization's objectives.
Okay. So do you have a certification in getting this kind of investors in people, sir?
Yes, that's part of it. That's part of the journey because you need to incentivize organizations to become more and more mature. That's why we have certain levels of achievement. As we accredit them, as we assess them, they can achieve silver level, gold level, platinum levels. So this is really in effect a journey towards really improving the organization, uh,
Mhm.
transforming the organization to become even better, especially during this pandemic period. I think more than any other time, transformation becomes even more real because I don't think business as usual is a viable option. Each disruption creates a new world order, and that's the reason why we need to really fundamentally change the way we do business and even the way we run our organizations.
Wow, interesting. Yeah, I think no, some of the companies should invest in their people, and maybe you could try their service in transforming the organization. So, thinking about in relevance of what's happening now in during pandemic, what do you think, or how leaders should respond during a pandemic?
I think the challenge during times of crisis or pandemics is for organizations, especially this one we're experiencing right now, to be able to develop. There's a lot of talk about developing a business recovery plan these days, a business recovery plan, because we see a lot of businesses trying to rethink their business. We've seen a lot of businesses pivot immediately so that they can survive. Like at one time they're making pizzas, but at another time they're now making face shields, things like that, because face shields probably might even help them survive better. There's a lot of pivoting in terms of products, in terms of processes. Even the business model itself is changing. Uh, but I think the other missing piece of these recovery plans is how are you going to run the organization? Because I don't think with all the product and process changes, you can still continue with running your organization the same way you did before. And that's the reason why the missing piece I see is if you have a business strategy, you must also have an organization strategy. And this is where you define things like how should we run our organizations, how should leaders behave differently so that we can achieve our recovery goals moving forward.
Thank you, sir. So when do the leaders needs to respond during pandemic?
Well, during pandemics, you notice one of the things, during pandemics, we see the best and the worst of leadership, really.
Mm,
Uh, I think uh, I think one of the things that this pandemic has revealed is our ill preparedness for responding to a crisis of this scale. And
okay.
this is the reason why, because I think any leadership in crisis requires a lot of speed of action. There's a lot of, you must be quick to sense what's happening outside and you must be able to respond quickly. I think time is so critical. In the case of pandemic, it can mean lives of people,
Yeah.
depending on the timeliness of that response.
Yeah.
So I think it's not just a question of coming up with a plan, but I think it's a question of how soon and immediately you can implement the plan and achieve the results that you desire.
Okay. So, thank you, sir. So you mentioned how soon. In fact, that's gonna be my next question. How soon a leader should react? Because the way I see it, no, most of the leaders now are reactive. They are not proactive. So how soon they could respond to during this pandemic?
That is precisely part of the transformation agenda, Rock, that needs to happen in organizations. I don't believe that this is the first disruption we've ever experienced. We've had so many disruptions in the past, so this is not really something new. Probably the only new thing here is the scale. But we've had so many disruptions. I think we should have been better prepared. I think this is such a big wake up call for leaders that we live in a highly disruptive environment. And probably this is just a drill for what is to come in the future. I'm sure we will still have many other disruptions to face within our lifetimes. And this is where the urgency is raised to be able to elevate the level of leadership that we have so that we can address all these challenges that we face in the future.
Okay, sir. Um, it makes me interested about organizational transformation. So, can you help me understand what is organization transformation means?
The word transformation, probably the difference between change and transformation is when we use the word transformation, there is an implicit uh, meaning of a fundamental change that's happening. Transformations usually accompany with it a lot of mindset changes. It's not just simple behavior change, it's mindset. Like, for instance, I'll give you one specific example of a mindset change. All of a sudden, what the pandemic did was suddenly we found ourselves working from home. You know, many of the leaders prior to COVID were so used to micromanaging. Okay, so if you're aware of a micromanager, what does a micromanager do? Parang close guarding. No, there's a lot of close guarding in terms of every step of your work. I don't think that's possible anymore with remote working. So again, the mindset needs to change. uh, Leaders need to trust their people more, and probably they need to not count the hours but the outputs of the remote workers. So that in itself is a big change from micromanaging. And this is the kind of change that is really being required when we say we need to transform our mindsets as well as our skill sets.
Okay. Thank you for answering that, sir. So, which of the companies should, or rather say, is this applicable for the small and medium-sized entrepreneurs, small-sized company, this organizational transformation, sir?
I think it's even more applicable to them than to the large organizations because they have more limited resources. Their lifelines are probably shorter, for survival. Because if all of a sudden in 3 or 4 months you don't have much business,
Mhm.
a lot of this, and we've seen this, a lot of the small businesses have really closed shop. They have not survived this. So for you to survive, you need to really, immediately have a plan, pivot, immediately change the way you operate, the way you run, so that you can survive and thrive in this pandemic.
Okay. Sir, do they only think of organizational transformation during pandemic or dapat naisip nila to way before pandemic?
They say, a lot of experts will say that the best time to transform is when you don't need to transform. Uh,
Okay.
Sometimes I think the best way to prepare for, because we've always talked about the VUCA environment. Remember, this was a term that we've been using many years. The environment is volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous. This is the most VUCA that we experience with this pandemic. And I don't think, as I said earlier, this is not going to be the last time we will ever experience disruption because this is precisely the age we live in. So I think the best thing for us to do is to prepare ourselves for this. Our organizations is our organization strong enough to be able to withstand such storms that will come along the way as we move forward into the future.
All right, sir. Thank you for that. Okay, about the leadership, sir, no? What is the role of leaders in organizational transformation?
Well, I would say rock leadership is key to
Mm.
transformation. And when I talk of leaders, I'm not just talking of the top man. I'm talking to all levels of leadership because there can be several levels of leadership in organizations. It's not just a top man's responsibility. It's key. We often say everything rises and falls on leadership. They set the tone, they create the environments. That's why I don't know. Many people don't realize that bad leadership is costly. That we don't invest enough in leadership development. Bad leadership, people are not able to lead well. That is costly because that can lead to some problems with people like high turnover rates, low engagement levels, lingering conflicts that cannot be resolved, and so on and so forth. No? So there's a lot of problems associated with bad leadership. That's why it's very important for us to really pay serious attention to the quality of leadership. Even investors now take a look at the quality of leadership when they want to invest in an organization. It's that important. It's very hard to quantify that, but that's a very valuable asset.
Okay. So, how is the how are they going to do that, sir, no? As a leader?
I think this is where another mindset change needs to happen in terms of how do we develop our leaders, because some some quarters are saying, I just have one or two leadership training programs and that's it. This is not a one-off or two-off event. I think organizations need to take a journey in the same way that what we do with investors in people, we take organizations on a journey. Like climbing a mountain is a journey, reaching the top is a journey.
Mhm.
So in any journey, like the leadership development journey, you should have training, you should have assessments, you should have feedback, you should have planning. I think all of this needs to be put in place, and you should have milestones that tell you how much you've achieved in your journey, because that is an important feedback to encourage you to go on, because the journey can be very difficult. We're
Okay.
not saying that this is an easy job or an easy path. It's going to be difficult. We require the high commitment of everyone for us to succeed in this journey, and that's the reason why leadership is so critical in this journey.
Okay. So if I may ask, what is the first step of this journey?
I think the first step in this journey is when you talk about a transformation journey, is to be able to really have a clear vision of where you really want to go. I
Okay.
think, and that's a leadership task by itself.
Mm.
And probably that's something that, like for instance, in this pandemic, many people are asking, where are we going? Will we still have jobs next year or next month? And I think they need to have a lot of this reassurance. And it is the leader's task to be able to set that vision, uh, communicate that vision, and mobilize everyone to achieve that vision. Whether that vision is let's reduce our costs so that we can survive in the next few months, to introducing a new product vision, or what have you. But I think it is the leader's task, and this is a good starting point to be able to set the direction very clearly, especially during crisis situations.
Okay. So during the journey, if they already recognize their goal, and that's the first step, no, as you mentioned, how will they keep it, no, in track to go through their goal?
This is where the leadership role comes in. And sometimes some people mistake leadership with management. These are two different terms.
Mm.
When we talk about management, it really refers to things. That's why we cannot say we manage people. There's no such thing. Because to say that is you're making people as a thing, which is bad. So we say we manage things and we lead people. And that's probably the reason with many of our traditional organizations are overmanaged and underled. That's why they need to increase the level of leadership, quality of leadership, so that people can be inspired, can be encouraged, can be supported to move forward in this transformation journey that we were talking about.
Interesting. Sir, may I know what is the end result of this good leadership?
Well, I think another a perspective of looking at the product of good leadership is a highly engaged workforce or an engaged employee. Okay, so that in itself, because I think that's where the multiplication process comes in.
Hmm.
Because unless you have fully engaged your people, I don't think we can say leadership has succeeded, because that in itself is the real mission of leadership. How can I raise the levels of commitment of my people so that they can do their very best to achieve the objectives of the organization? But a lot of people sometimes, still question the business case for why do we need to invest in leadership to engage people. There are a lot of reasons why we should do this, and one good reason, which I can just expound here, is: do you know, Rock, that when we see an engaged employee, that engaged employee is 20% more productive than the average employee. A typical engaged employee is 20% more productive than the average employee. So what's the implication of that? If you have five engaged employees, it is as if you have one extra staff. Okay, that's the implication, because it's 20% more. So if you're a 1,000 person organization, And just for the sake of discussion, you say 30% are engaged in that workforce. So you have about 300 people that are engaged. It is as if you have the benefit of 60 extra staff that is working for your organization. That's the business case for engagement. And that's the reason why we want to invest in leadership so that we can have that benefit. Because especially during crises and pandemics, we need all the help we can get from our workforce because the journey to recovery is not going to be easy. If you have all disengaged employees, I don't think it will get you anywhere.
Okay.
Even if you have the most brilliant recovery business plans, it will not get you very far if your employees are all disengaged. Because the definition of disengaged employee is an employee who is only there doing the minimum work, okay? Not somebody who wants to go all out and even produce 20% more productivity.
Interesting. So, how can you make these leaders engage, sir?
Okay, that's probably the big question, and these were probably the central thinking should get into, because I'd like to look at it in very simple ways. Really, I don't want to be very complicated about how do you develop an engaging leader. I just have a few tips around engaging leaders.
Good, sir. We would
Number
like
one,
our
okay,
tips. That's
one is very important. Know your people. Know them. I say know them. Now, what's the tip? In simple terms, how do we do this? Is it enough that we've read their CV and we already know them? Okay, probably that's a good start, but that's not enough. There's such a thing as conversations. So probably we can revolve our tips along conversations that leaders should do for them to become even more engaging. And the conversation that can help people know your people is what I call social talk. Do you know what the social talk is, Rock? When we talk about things that are not work related. Like
mm,
when I ask you, when I meet you in the office, Rock, how did you spend your weekend?
okay.
Or, things like that. That's social talk, isn't it? Like
Okay.
right during the pandemic, we say, before we even get to business, we ask our people how you are. How are you doing? I think sometimes we are so tempted to get to the work conversation immediately, we forget the social talk. The social talk is not a waste of time. It is an opportunity to get to know your people. So, like when we talk about personal things just before we start the meeting agenda, it's
Hmm.
not a waste of time. This is social talk. And do you know that social talks increase the bonds between people engaging in social talk? When I ask you and we talk about how you spent your weekend and how I spent my weekend, things like that increases the bonds. So I say, aside from work talk, an engaging leader engages and values social conversations. That's the first tip. Okay.
Interesting.
Ready for the second one. The second tip is inspire them. We said leaders are for people, isn't it? And if you are, for you to become a good leader, you should be an inspiring leader. But how do you inspire? This is a question. How do you inspire people? One of the greatest sources of inspiration is when the organization has a clearly stated purpose that goes far beyond just making money. Okay? Because making money, let's face it, if that is your end all, even if you're a business organization, it only inspires a few people, the shareholders. Okay? But it does not inspire the entire organization. What inspires the entire organization is a purpose that is so noble that goes beyond just profit making. So if you have that clearly set up in the organization and you continue to talk about it, sometimes we have these mission statements that we have in organizations, but sometimes they're just plastered in the wall, but nobody talks about them. I think what is important is to have a conversation around that. Like, for instance, if this is the company mission or purpose, what's your own personal mission or purpose? How does that get aligned with what the company wants to do? I think we need to have that kind of conversation because these are conversations that inspire people. You know, Because the numbers, sometimes the opposite of that, if you're not inspiring, is you just talk about numbers, okay? Numbers, performance targets, and things like that. That's not really truly inspiring. Sometimes the numbers only become meaningful if it is contextualized within a noble and an inspiring purpose. Okay? And more and more organizations are beginning to realize this. That's why they're beginning to write very inspiring mission statements or purpose statements. So that's the next tip for becoming an engaging leader. Engage in purpose or vision conversations that inspire aside from just giving people numbers. How does that sound to you, Rob?
It sounds amazing, sir. In fact, I didn't know that this is are the two tips no, on how to be a highly engaged leader. So knowing your people, I thought kasi before when I do this, parang I thought this is something like yung pep talk na yun, no? I thought it's something like nonsense, no? Pero it makes more sense to me now, hearing from you, that social talks is actually how you make your people engage into their work because you're taking them out, no? For the meantime, not thinking about office is something like in a computer, mag-reboot muna tayo. Reboot, no? Before we go back to work. Kasi parang talking about more on the office sides, it makes you feel like stress or burnout kasi you've been talking about that. And then, pag nag-social talk na kayo, pagbalik nyo to the brainstorming or to the drawing board, you feel like something like refreshed. Eh. Iba yung feeling eh. Kasi our emotions clutches our creativity. Am I right, sir?
That's right. You're very correct. That's why
Oh.
going to social talk, one interesting test that you can do among leaders is you test them how much they know their team members.
Mm-mm.
Aside from their names, about their family, how many children do they have, what are the names of their children, what schools do they go to. I think you can, if you can run that simple test, you will be surprised to find out how very little leaders know about their people.
Yeah, I in fact I miss this to my boss no this social talk because most of I've been to a lot of companies already before I jump out of office. Itong social talk na to, I miss this to some of my office workers or some of my boss before. Kasi pagdating sa office, Rock, where's the file? Where is this design? Where is this? Where is this? Okay, boss. Okay, boss. So, nagiging okay boss na lang ako for the entire day. Ang ka-social talk ko lang is yung, of course, mga office mates ko, yung mga katabi ko, yan, yun yung madami kong ka-social talk. Pero, I seldom sees or hear a boss, no, doing this kind of social talk. I think this is sounds ideal to me. Pero for me as a leader, no, parang I do this a lot of times. I do a lot of, ang tawag ko nga dyan, sir, is hindi social talk, pep talk eh. Kasi talagang,
Pep talk. Okay.
it's really,
Okay.
irrelevant yung mga topics pa namin. Pero it ignites eh. It's connect to your second tip, which is inspiring people. It's engaging them in the purpose of vision and mission, no? Into
That's
your
right.
office.
You know what's also interesting about social talks, going back to social talks, Rock,
Go ahead, sir.
is it keeps you in touch with people. You know exactly what state they're in, whether they're having problems. They might say when you say, "How did you spend your weekend?" You might get a response like, "We usually go to the beach, but this time we did not because we didn't feel like it." That's already a signal to you something's happening. So it's like a pulse. You don't get to know people in just one sitting. I
Mm-mm.
think it has to be these small bits of conversations. And something you notice about social talks, whenever you engage with that, haven't you noticed that you increase your relationships? Your relationships become better.
Mm-mm.
And people crave this. And this is what we're missing, by the way, in this pandemic. We're at home. We miss the social talks, because this is what keeps us socially healthy. There's such a thing as social wellness. And part of maintaining our social wellness is engaging in positive interactions with others, and that we like, and that's the essence of social talk. Right.
Amazing. And this is connecting to your second tip, which is inspire. Kasi
Yes.
you are something like inspiring them to be more engaged, no? So, this is really connected to our topic, the lead. The engaging leaders. Okay.
That's
So
right. That's right.
kasi inspiring them, no, internal and external, meaning office, personal and professional, the way we say it, no. So parang it's making them more parang inspired to do a lot in the office. So sir, question ko, no, how do you inspire them? You as a leader, based in your, can you share with us some of your case study, um, applying this social talk and inspiring them and how they become more engaged in their office? Can you
Okay.
share a story
I will
about
answer that question by trying to go through all the list that I have in terms of how to become engaging. Because if you can do all of that, you are such really a super inspiring person.
it? Go ahead, sir. Go ahead. I'm
Let me just go to the third point, or to the third tip. If you want to
amazing.
call it that. The third tip is grow your people, grow them,
Okay.
make them grow. Okay. So, what kind of conversation should leaders have in this area? I call it development conversation. Leaders must engage their people in development conversations. How does a development conversation look like? It's a conversation that asks, what are your career aspirations? What are your career goals? What are you doing about that? How can I be of help to you in achieving your career goals? That is a development conversation.
Sir, if I may ask, what's the difference between social talk to development conversation?
Well, the development conversation is more focused on growing you. Talks about what competencies do you want to build that will be consistent with your career aspiration. So it's a very specific type of dialogue or conversation that helps the person develop. And take a look, the young people especially, they need this so badly. Some people just leave organizations because they feel nobody's guiding them, nobody's teaching them, nobody's mentoring them. In short, nobody's engaging in development conversations with them, and they need a lot of this guidance, this mentoring. So the development conversation, which is also very engaging, is when people get inspired when you ask them about what your career aspirations are. Where do you want to take your career? What are your goals? What help do you need to get there? What can I do to help you get there? And so on and so forth. That's a development conversation. That's totally inspiring. Okay, compared to a traditional manager will just engage you in performance conversations. How was your performance this quarter? Why is your performance low? What are you going to do about it? Of course, that is necessary, but I'm saying it may not be inspiring or engaging compared to a developer. That's why you need to balance the two problems. You must have performance conversations, yes, but you must also have development conversations. But my experience in typical organizations, they just probably have one development conversation a year. Okay, I think this should be more often. I
Mm,
think development conversation should be done more often because this is truly engaging and inspiring for people.
okay. So correct me if I'm wrong. Based on my understanding, social talk is talking about outside the office, and then development conversation is inside the office. Am I right, sir?
No, the social talk can also happen inside the office.
Oh,
Like
okay.
before you start a meeting, you engage in social talk.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, in some cultures, there is more time for social talk than business talk.
Okay.
Because the social talk is a way of assessing people, they're sizing each other up whether I can work with this person or not.
Yeah, I like that word. You're sizing them already. You're gauging, no? What's gonna happen in this moving forward in your meeting? That's
Because
great.
you're getting to know them as persons, so you are probably asking questions like, can I trust this guy? Can I work with these people?
That's right.
Then the business part becomes very fast once you've gotten over them. Once there's trust and there's relationship and so on and so forth.
Totally agree with you, sir. All right. Do you have any other tip, pa, sir?
So
In your
yes, uh, after know them, inspire them, grow them. The next one is empower them.
empower.
So that's a very strong word. So what exactly does an empowering conversation look like? It's a conversation that talks about clarifying the decisions that a person can make, simply put. Because you only get empowered when you feel you can make decisions by yourself. Is it not?
Yeah.
Because if you know you can make certain decisions, you feel empowered. If you can't make any decisions, you feel powerless. So I think what is a missing piece of conversation in many organizations is a conversation that says, if these are my KPIs, these are my targets, what kinds of decisions can I make by myself so that I can achieve these targets? And in a lot of cases, this conversation is not happening. That's why what happens in reality is these people just wait for instructions. They do not want to make the call. When there are problems, they wait for their superiors to make those calls. And the organization can become very slow, because you have to wait for your, like some offices or some organizations, when the boss is on leave, they don't make nothing gets done because nobody makes the decision. Okay, because the people feel powerless. Okay, so it's not only slow, it is very disengaging for people because they feel powerless. So if you clarify the decisions they can make, and they should be making decisions that relate to the achievement of their KPIs, that is necessary. I think that is going to be an engaging conversation. Empower
Interesting.
them. Usually, what happens is the manager that makes all the decisions, isn't it?
Mm. I think the usual setup in the office is yung boss lang, no? Those are the people who have a voice, no? This is a common office setup, eh. So empowering your subordinates might be difficult. So how will you handle something like that, sir?
I know it's difficult because many managers are used to making the decisions by themselves. But do you know that if you want to truly engage people, they can contribute to the utmost. I think you need to really start trusting them to make decisions.
So
And,
what
and, and besides, you cannot assume larger, responsibilities if you do not unload some of these decisions to your
so
people.
follow-up questions on that, based on what you've mentioned. What if your subordinates or your person or your people doesn't create a good decisions or a good output? You've given them, you empowered them, no? And then pinag-isip mo sila, they created their own solutions, and then present sa'yo, and you're not happy with it. So how do you deal with that?
Okay. Probably we need to distinguish between uh, you know, uh, delegating a responsibility and abdicating. You're not abdicating. You're not losing control. This is not a loss of control. I think you're still pretty much there, but you're not micromanaging. And if there's some mistakes that need to be made, let it be, but let it be a learning lesson. Because do you know that the best way to really develop people is when they're actually given the chance to make decisions, and if they did not make that good a decision, they learn from that. You know, an honest mistake. I think we need to have some allowances for that, because otherwise, our people will be probably the least used, assets in the organization because we're not using their heads. Sometimes this is the problem with human resources. We get the best talent and then we don't ask them for their opinions because we still make all the decisions. Can you imagine that waste of human talent? So I think we need to start trusting them, guiding them. If they make some mistakes, we're able to guide them so that they become stronger, they become better moving forward.
Sir, another follow-up question, if I may ask. What if you already empowered this person, no? So how will you handle if this person or your employee empowered subordinates, and then sa sobrang empowered niya, she feels like she's better than you?
The one that you're empowering feels better than you.
Yes, sir.
That can happen. Yes, that's right. That's why the shift, again, we were talking about the mindset shift. The shifting of the role of the manager needs to happen. From making all the decisions, the manager now becomes like a coach and a mentor. So I think if you are able to shift there, I don't think that will happen.
Okay.
The feeling that, I'm better than you. People only feel that if they see a leader who's not doing anything at all and is doing all the job, you know. But if the leader is able to shift gradually and more successfully into new roles like mentoring and guiding and supporting and coaching, I think that feeling will not be expressed.
Interesting. Interesting, sir. I'd like to know more of your list pa dyan, sir.
How many do we have so far? We have already four, no? Diba? Know them, inspire them, grow them, empower them. Okay, are you ready for the fifth one?
Yes, sir.
Very basic but very powerful. It says recognize them.
Mm,
Okay, recognition is the key word. Why do I say this? It's so simple, and yet why is it so hard? People, there's a lot of complaint out there about people feeling they're not recognized for the work they do. Instead, what usually is experienced is criticism, not recognition. You know, very seldom will you find somebody who will be called to a manager's office to be recognized. That seldom happens. Usually, when your manager is looking for you, you're afraid that you will be reprimanded, or like what we say in school, we're called to the principal's office, meaning to say we only go to that office when something is wrong. We did something is wrong, and we're ready for a scolding or for a reprimand or for a criticism.
yeah.
But I think what is engaging is when leaders pay attention to what people are doing right and recognize them even on the spot. One of the most powerful recognition is when you do that on the spot, at the first opportunity that you can recognize. Like when somebody makes a good presentation in a meeting, right after the meeting, you say, that was a terrific presentation. I like the way you handled the questions, and you become very specific. That is powerful. Rather than wait for December during the performance appraisal and say, I'd like to recognize you for something you did sometime in, I don't know, it was February or March, that loses already the power of recognition. It has to be immediate, it has to be specific, it has to be sincere, and it needs to be looking at what the person did well. That is recognition.
Okay. Sir, if I may ask, in your expert opinion, why some leaders can't give recognition to their people?
Well, there are many reasons for that, Rock. Others are saying, they baka lumaki ulo. You know, uh, that's one of the things I hear. Sometimes I hear reasons like they might ask for a salary increase. I mean, there's so many inhibitions. They do not know the power. Do you know that this is one of the main reasons why people leave organization? This is it's not just about money really. It's about how people are treated. That's why we have this phrase about we join companies and we leave managers because of how we feel we're treated. We're under recognized, we're under appreciated. That's why we're frustrated and things like that. So I think we can never underestimate the power of record. It is not expensive, to say, you see somebody doing something right and you are able to say that, and recognize the person. I think it's not all just about money. I think if all our reward system is all about money, I think we will even corrupt everyone. Because there's such value about the non-monetary rewards as well.
Okay.
And we stay pure as that. It's genuine, it's authentic, it's sincere. It's even more fulfilling for the person.
Okay. Sir, another question regarding this recognizing them. Is whenever you recognize their or compliment, no, or give commendations on what they did, isn't that a sugar coating about their mistake?
Sugar coating?
Mm-hmm.
No, because it's not going to be sincere if it's sugar coating. So
Okay.
this means to say, if you really need to recognize it, it must be sincere. It should be worthy of recognition. Because
Okay.
if you recognize every single thing that he or she does, and whether it's significant or not, it becomes very cheap. No? We're not saying that that's the kind of recognition. You should give the recognition where recognition is due. Something has been done in an outstanding manner. There's an outstanding behavior, that was expressed. Somebody made an extra effort to deliver to the customer what the customer needed, even at the inconvenience of the person. Those are things that need to be recognized.
Okay. Awesome. All right, sir. I'm learning a lot.
Okay.
Bring some more, sir. Some more.
Okay. You're ready for this one? The
Yes,
next
sir.
one
I want
is,
more.
they're all very simple tips, really, to be engaging. Because if we can follow all of them, we can be the most engaging leader.
You know what,
There-
sir? Are really perfect for this topic, no, engaging leader, because you're making me engage. I'm the host and I'm engaged.
Okay, okay, okay. I'll give you the next one, Rock.
Go
Okay,
ahead.
this is also a very interesting thing. No, the next tip is show them. Okay, that's a little bit of interesting tip because we're saying the leaders should set the example. What does that exactly mean? The problem with many leaders these days, and they're not aware of it, they give mixed signals. So, what is a mixed signal? A mixed signal is when a leader says one thing and does another. Okay? Like, for instance, if we hear from the United States, some of the leaders say, it's important to wear a mask, but they don't wear masks themselves. That is a mixed signal. It erodes the credibility. Whenever we give a mixed signal, it erodes credibility of the leader. So that's very dangerous. That's why the key to show them is to be able to be sensitive to the consistency between your words and your deeds. That you only say things that you're willing to do. Otherwise, don't say it. Because the moment there is a disconnect that people see, you lose credibility immediately. So you don't only become not engaging, that is a source for disengagement. That's why the tip is very simple. Show them.
So
Show
correct me if I'm
how
wrong.
you're.
Something like you walk the talk, no, as a leader.
Yes, that's what we say. Okay, and it needs a certain level of mindfulness that whatever we say, we do, and we only say things that we're willing to do. Like you might want to say, everybody should be early in the office, but you're late. There's a mixed signal there. So you better not say it if you cannot even do it. So like doctors saying don't smoke, but they smoke. These are all mixed signals that somehow erodes the credibility of somebody.
Okay. Interesting. Wow, sir. All right.
Okay.
So do
Okay. Let's go to the last one. I have one last tip.
okay. We want
Probably the
that's
most basic of them all.
we want some more. Pero sige, sir. If this is
Yeah, yeah. Basic of them all is listen to them.
okay, listen to them. Okay.
Listen to them. Why is that still a tip? Isn't that something that's easy to do? What do you think? Do you think listening is easy to do, Ra?
Well, but sir, in my opinion, no, it's really hard to listen, lalo na if your mind is somewhere else.
Okay, your mind is somewhere else. There's so many distractions to listening, isn't it?
Mm, mm, mm,
Mind is someone else, or I'm not interested in what you're saying, or
mm,
there's too much noise, I can't hear what you're saying. So so many things can really block
mm,
listening. That's why listening is very important because this is one of the things that sometimes when you say how can that lead to engagement, it's the leader's capability to create an environment where everyone listens to each other, not just the leader but to each other, because
mhm.
the worst thing that a person can really experience in work is he or she feels no one is listening to him or her. Okay? And there's such a thing like this is easier said than done, by the way, because a lot of the times in work settings it's very hard for people to speak freely because they do not know whether they are permitted to do so. Because if you speak candidly, and this does not, this does not please, leaders, and they get back at you in some way, then that's an indication that speaking freely is not allowed. Okay? Uh, I know of a manager. I have a manager friend who, whenever he makes a decision and nobody is objecting to a certain proposal, what he says is, "We're not ready to make the decision unless and until I hear different points of views. That's the only time we will make a decision." So he's encouraging dissent. He's encouraging disagreements. So, meaning to say, this is the type of leader who really wants to listen, because his objective is to arrive at the best decision. He's not after his own, even if you contradict or you disagree with me, that's not important. What's important to him is we arrive at the best decision. So I'm here to listen to whatever views you want to put on the table. Sometimes, we have management meetings where only two or three people are speaking, and then you open the floor for questions. Nobody's asking questions. But when they go out in their own corridors, there's a lot of questions. They ask all those questions. Clear example of a culture where people feel they're not free to speak. So I think there must be a lot of effort to really send the message that people can speak up freely, that managers are willing to listen. I sometimes advise managers you should hold some meetings where your only objective is to listen to people. Do not talk. Okay? Because the moment you talk, if you talk first, or if you talk last. People just get quiet. I
Okay.
don't know. Sometimes I reflect on this myself, Rock. I don't know. Is it because in school, I've had speaking classes, I've had reading classes, writing classes, but I never had listening classes.
That's really really hard.
My age.
Maybe we could set up something like that. This is a listening masterclass. What's pretty interesting, no? Because there's an employee, I encounter this, I have this subordinates who always talks, no? Always talks. Keep on talking, keep on talking. Parang bibo, no? In such a way that's the word that I'm trying to say, bibo siya. So, if you're going to listen to them, they're eating so much of your time. Parang ako as a leader, parang I want to do something else na. Can you please finish and go to the point, jump to the conclusion na, or get given the message straight so I could give my decisions to you or could give you advice. So, can you help us, sir, no? When is the best time to listen?
When is the best time to listen? What the example that you were saying was somebody was pouring out, something to you, and you probably didn't have time. You can just be honest about that. I have to do something right now, but probably can we meet again? Let's say at a certain time where I can have more time to listen. I mean, you can truly be honest. That's why one of the things that we teach in leadership is coaching. That's the reason why I like coaching, because it teaches you how to listen. The true definition of a coach now is not somebody who gives you the answers. The true definition of a coach now is somebody who is a thinking partner. Meaning to say, I want to listen to you, but it's your agenda that matters, not mine. So there's a lot of, so leaders are forced to really listen. So if you're trying to create a coaching culture and you create more coaches within leaders, I think it's a great way to really institutionalize the listening, the listening role of leaders to their people.
I like what you said there, sir. As a coach, no, as a leader slash coach, your agenda, what matters most, not mine. Ang galing,
Not
sir.
my agenda. It's
Yeah,
yours.
it's very unselfish leader yung tone of this type of leader. All right, Sir Jerry, since this is our last list in your to be an effective, no, engaging leader, time we already ran out of time kasi 45 minutes lang tayo. I want to talk to you more. This is different for me, no, kasi ibang speakers na may slides, but you engaging. It's really engaging. Doing talk to you, I didn't notice it's already 45 minutes or more than pa, no? I didn't notice that. At any rate, we wish to hear a lot of, leadership tips from you. Sir, last question lang, no? Um, ito yung whenever you discuss this, ang laging pumapasok sa isip ko, consistency. Okay? How to be consistent as an engaging leader, how to be consistent, sir?
So your question is how can we be consistent as a leader?
Sir.
That's why I go back to the investors and people approach. It's very hard to develop by yourself alone. So you need to be as a group
Mhm.
because you need each other. So when a group of leaders have committed themselves to develop themselves and they check each other and they help each other, they become bodies to each other. I think that's where consistency becomes even more possible because you have a language, you can check on each other. Nobody takes it personally because everyone is open to feedback. I think we need to grow together as a group. It's always fun to grow together as a group. And I say that probably is a very important element for growing if we're together with a group. And this is where consistency is ensured.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Sir Jerry. Wow, time flies so fast. Thank you, Sir Jerry, once more for being our guest tonight. I know everyone out there can expect more of you in the future. Sir Jerry, would you mind where they can reach you?
Well, I have my Gmail. You can just reach me in my Gmail,
Okay.
which is Gerry with a G, Gerry Araujo, Araujo, Plana, Gerry Araujo Plana uh, at gmail.com.
All right. Thank you there, Sir Jerry. Guys, I'll just type in na lang in the comment box no yung email of Sir Jerry. It's a jerryaraujoplana@gmail.com. If you guys interested and if you have a personal questions regarding Sir Jerry, you may is it okay, sir? No, send an email to you.
Sure.
Yeah, he'll do his best to answer it. For the meantime, for some of you have been sending chat, okay, and we are hoping that Sir Jerry could answer your questions. Maybe just leave it there na lang in the comment box, and then kasi our time runs out na, and we will try to attend to your questions later. All right, so Sir Jerry, thank you so much, and all of you who are listening there, who are watching tonight, please do check out our Facebook page, Speakers Bureau Academy, and soon this episode will be launched in the YouTube channel as well, and all other episodes of The Leader's Edge. So if you guys really like this episode, if somehow it were able to enlighten you, to help to become an engaging and true, to become a leader's edge, no, please type your key takeaway here in the comment box, and share it. Tag those people who will be needing this type of episode. And for next week, next Wednesday, our next guest speaker will be Lee Manalaysay on building your solid financial foundations. Pretty interesting. So don't miss that next episodes. So Sir Jerry, before we say goodbye to everyone, do you have some advice for our viewers for tonight?
Okay, just very briefly, my advice to our listeners, viewers, is to follow those steps, those tips that I mentioned. I think they're very easy to follow. If you can just do, sometimes I was asking, there's one thing, you cannot do all seven. One thing I can do, what would that be? I will choose listen to them. If you can just start there, I think the power of listening is so huge, that it could really change a lot of things. So I'd like you to take leadership seriously. I'd like you to take the journey because it's not a one-off event, so that in the future you can be a better leader, a leader that your organization will have to rely on to move your organizations forward. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Sir Jerry. We have a very, very wonderful episode tonight, engaging leaders. And for me, and my key takeaway here is to have a leader's edge. You will be engaging leader is a nurturing leader. So yun ang tumatak sa isip ko while in this the entire discussions. And guys, thank you so much for staying for about almost an hour. Okay, see you again next Leadership Edge Day, same Leaders Edge time. I'm your host for tonight. My name is Rock Leo. I'm a design thinker guru. Together with my co-host Sir Dino Santos and also Jet Ramos, saying learning is a journey with many beautiful vistas and never-ending horizon. Until next Wednesday, good night, stay safe, stay home, God bless. Sir Gerry, thank you so much.
Thank you, Rob. My pleasure.
So lahat kami nangangarap kami maging regular employee, but that never happened. I have to improve my attitude. I have to keep learning. Mahirap po, pero I went out my comfort zone, and then blood, sweat, and tears, just like a success story ninyo, and which made me where I am now. It's all because making that simple decision.
Let me ask you, I'm sure you are experiencing now even beyond what you imagined, correct? Oh, see? Because once you start moving in the right direction, pataas, no? I mean, it will just go, it will propel you to greater heights. Even if it is not yet true, you think, you believe, then you act like it is true. It will come true.
You know you're already earning money.
These are the perceptions of the members.
So you're afraid to go out to your comfort zone.
It's from the media.
You should go out outside your comfort zone. So take a lead.
Good news normally are in the back pages. And if we are not wise enough, our thinking will be influenced by what we are bombarded on a daily basis.
And show them the right way. Because I believe everyone's here have a winning edge. Thank you.
Wow. Yeah.